Hi everybody, I'm going to start with a quick sort of painting demo of trees. So I thought I'd use maybe these two, both in Hadley, and maybe do a little bit of both. I was thinking it's quite nice to just start, you know, you could, if you wanted to, rather than paint a whole painting, you could just do some studies to start with. So that's what I thought I'd do. So I just primed up with a bit of ball. I think one of the things with trees is I quite enjoy using a variety of different paint marks. The kind of paintings I like are paintings where they're sort of impressionistic, but reasonably detailed. But it's almost like an impression of the details rather than trying to paint every single leaf. So for me, it's important that the paintwork looks a bit lively and interesting. So something like this one, I'll probably start out. Perhaps just use So this is like a very worn down brush, and this is ideal for just sketching out because I can almost like use it as a pencil, sort of rest on the board and just kind of sketch out the shapes that I want. So I'm going for this one, although this one's quite nice as well. So it's just getting a little bit of an idea where the main tree trunks would be. Like that. Sometimes I would start with the main tree trunk. So that might be an idea. I've pre-mixed a few colours here, so I've just got like a really dark, kind of grey, browny colour, a dark green and a light green, and then these colours I was thinking might be quite good for the shrubs in the background, although I'm really intending to just concentrate on the tree. And then you've got these sort of like really bright highlights, so I thought something like that might work for that. That was the reason I put these colours, was so that would show up. Right, how's that brush? That might be too big. Slightly smaller. Use a little tiny bit of medium, it's a little bit stiff to paint. I've just got a mixture of all the oil paints I've been using the last week or so. So some of the traditional ones and some of the water mix balls, so just kind of working. I think once I've got to about there, I wouldn't necessarily put all the trunks in because I probably want to get some of the foliage in there. Back to that small brush. And then with the foliage, what I look for is almost like big areas of like dark. Particularly looking at sort of movement and rhythms and shapes through the foliage. So rather than try and home in on individual leaves, I look for sort of like maybe like a wave of dark. In a way. So there's almost like a kind of zigzag going through there. That's coming back through here. So it's trying to look for sense of rhythm and movement, really. Hi, Sid.
Morning.
You going to sit here?
Yeah.
Okay, right, so start off with the darks. Again, just tiny bit of medium. And using this sort of kind of stiffish filbert brush, quite a good size. That can work through there. No, you're not in my way. But I'm everybody else, yeah. So I generally try and use as big a brush as I can. There's maybe a few slightly darker bits in there, so I can just work those in. So I was going for the mid green, and I'm just adding a bit of this dark colour that I use for the trunk. A little bit through there. Let's go slightly lighter. Let's put that in. And this sort of thing where I kind of half close my eyes and I'm just looking for light and dark shades, just trying to get those in. And then there's a bit more here. Some down here. And I like to try and vary the brush marks. So I might do some like that, sort of sideways marks, some this way, sometimes it's the tip. So just alternating a little bit to try and keep the brushwork lively, really. So I think that would be okay for the darks. Just put these down. I'll just wipe that.
Sorry, Boris, what colours you used to mix them?
So what I used was some of the greens that I was using last week. I just thought, well, they're there. I might as well use those to start with. I'm just using whatever this is.
Very technical.
Yeah. So this is the traditional oils. This is the what's mixable oil. I'm just kind of using whatever I've got. Yeah. So that was a dark green. I think something like a sap green. But I probably added a bit of brown in it and a bit of blue. So the sort of colours I'm using, so there's the cadmium yellow, sap green, ultramarine blue, and I think that is raw umber brown, or it might be a burnt umber brown. I think it's burnt umber, which is slightly redder. Yeah, those. And then in places I've just used tiny bits of red for some of the other mixes, but not quite these ones yet. So this lighter yellow is, again, the same sort of green, but just with more yellow in it. And I think with these sort of greens, there might be a couple of stages to this. I'm going to work some of that in. I tend not to add white too early on, so it's just colours so far, and then the white will come later. So just want to kind of get some
quite a big brush, is it, Paul, that you're using?
Sorry?
Quite a big brush.
Yeah, and but that is, that's quite nice. I can kind of get an impression of leaves in the distance, really. And I'm just slightly using almost like a dry brush there, just kind of dragging the paint. So it's picking up, there's a little bit of texture on the board, so it's picking a tiny bit of texture up. And there's a little bit of light down here. And then for the lighter bits, where the light is kind of bouncing off the leaves, that's where it starts to look a bit like there's a green with a white mixed in. So let's mix a little bit of white in. See how that looks. Again, not particularly wash the brush. You could wipe it if you need to, but the colour that's on there is all right to mix in with white. Just really look at where that lands, really. And so far, actually, I've pretty much painted most of it with this brush, this kind of velvet brush. So just sort of softening some of the marks out, almost like blending some of the marks. Picking up a bit more paint, using some marks that way, some that way, perhaps some on the tip. If you wanted to get, say, individual, what you tend to notice is like where you can possibly see the odd individual leaf or groups of individual leaves, tend to be on the edges, on the silhouette. You won't really see individual leaves in a mass like that. So they're the bits where you might want to just dot a few in, just here and there, and that's, quite often that's enough of a, to suggest that there's some massive leaves, really. So again, just using the tip of the brush, a few tiny marks, probably do the same here. Just break that up a little bit. I'll just go back in a few more highlights, just a tiny bit lighter. Probably call it a day. So we've got that lighter bit, and then it could go even lighter still. Just bring some light into there. That might be a bit too light, actually. It'll end up look like one of those constables where they look a bit snowy. A bit too light. That's about there. And then the other thing is like this little bit of background there, just like a tiny bit in there, just because that tree trunk, the light is hitting that and it's really bright, so it needs. So I just mix some sort of colours for these shrubs in the background. And I'll just go a tiny bit lighter with the grey. Always have a bit of tissue or a bit of rag just to wipe the brushes. And that can be sort of white, bright highlight on the side of the tree trunk there. Don't know if you can see that from where you are. Perhaps I could go darker around it. So it's got a little bit darker around that. That works quite nicely, just sort of dragging one colour over another, just mixing it in. Sort of gives the impression of you know, the shrubs without trying to get too detailed. So that help? Yeah. So as I say, it's quite nice to just do a few little studies. You could do another one here. Perhaps I'll do that one next week, or maybe something else next week. I'll have a look, or a different type of tree.
Twiggy one would be good.
Sorry?
A twiggy one would
A
be
twiggy,
good.
yeah,
'cause
yeah.
I find it
Yeah.
difficult to do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll do that one next week. Yep. Yeah, no, that's great.
Sorry, love, my big tank.
Stop that.